You're sitting alone on a Friday night, scrolling through your phone, and you see everyone else posting stories from parties, dinners, group hangouts, and you think to yourself, am I the only one who's just here? And then comes that weird guilt, that voice asking, what's wrong with me? Why don't I have a big circle? Why does being around people sometimes feel more exhausting than being alone? And here's the thing, you start believing the narrative that something must be broken inside you, that you're weird, antisocial, maybe even damaged. But what if I told you that the reason you have few or no close friends might not be a flaw at all? What if it's actually because you carry certain rare traits that most people just don't have? Traits that make you different, not defective. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to see yourself in a completely new light. And trust me, you'll realize that having fewer friends might actually be one of your greatest strengths. So let's dive into the first trait, and this one's going to hit home hard. You have an extremely low tolerance for superficial conversations. Now think about the last time you were at a social gathering. Someone walks up to you and says, "Hey, how's it going?" And you know they don't actually care, they're just filling the silence. And you're supposed to smile, say, "Good, you?" and then talk about the weather or what show you're watching. Right? But inside, you're screaming because small talk feels like nails on a chalkboard to your soul. You don't hate people, you hate the shallow surface-level interactions that never go anywhere meaningful. You want to know what keeps someone awake at night, what shaped them into who they are, what their biggest fear is, what they dream about when no one's watching. You want depth, you want realness, you want connection that matters. But here's the problem. Most people don't operate like that. Most people bond over surface-level stuff, shared interests, funny memes, casual hangouts, and that's totally fine for them. But for you, it feels empty. It feels like you're wasting your time pretending to care about things that don't actually matter. And so you'd rather be alone than fake enthusiasm for conversations that drain you. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because this isn't antisocial behavior, this is actually a sign of high emotional intelligence and depth. Studies show that people who prefer deep, meaningful conversations over small talk tend to be more introspective, more empathetic, and more intellectually curious. They're not avoiding people, they're avoiding emotional emptiness. And the truth is, deep people intimidate shallow people. So when you walk into a room and you're not interested in gossiping or playing social games, people don't know what to do with you. They label you as quiet, weird, standoffish, when really, you're just operating on a different wavelength. And that leads us straight into the second trait. Are you ready for this? You're highly selective about who you let into your inner world. Now, most people collect friends like Pokemon cards. The more, the better, right? But not you. You don't want a crowd, you want a few people who actually get you. You'd rather have 2 real friends than 20 acquaintances who only know the surface version of you. And here's why. Because you understand something that most people don't. Intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires trust. And trust is not something you hand out like free samples at the grocery store. You've been burned before. Maybe someone you trusted betrayed you. Maybe someone you opened up to used your secrets against you. Or maybe you just realized that most people can't handle the real you, the messy, complicated, overthinking version of you that doesn't fit into neat little boxes. So now you're careful. You observe people before you let them in. You test the waters. You see if they're consistent, loyal, genuine. And most people, they don't pass the test. Not because they're bad people, but because they're not your people. And that's okay, because you're not looking for fans, you're looking for family. You're looking for the kind of friendships where you can sit in silence and it's not awkward, where you can call them at 3 in the morning and they'll answer, where they know the worst parts of you and they still choose to stay. And friendships like that, they're rare. So yeah, you might not have many friends, but the ones you do have, if any, they're ride or die. Now, here's the plot twist, and this is where things get really interesting. The third trait is that you have an intense need for solitude. And I'm not talking about just needing alone time after a long day. I'm talking about solitude being essential to your mental survival. For you, being alone isn't loneliness, it's recharging, it's clarity, it's peace. And most people don't understand that. They think if you're alone, you must be sad, you must be isolated, you must be struggling. But the truth is, you're not running away from people. you're running towards yourself. Because here's what happens when you're constantly surrounded by others. You lose yourself. You start performing. You start adjusting your personality to fit the room. You start saying things you don't mean just to keep the vibe going. And after a while, you don't even recognize yourself anymore. Solitude gives you that reset button. It lets you strip away all the masks, all the expectations, all the noise, and just exist as you are. And honestly, most people are terrified of that. They're scared of being alone with their own thoughts because they've never taken the time to actually know themselves. But you've done the inner work. You've sat with your demons. You've questioned everything. You've figured out who you are when no one's watching. And that kind of self-awareness is rare. It's powerful. And it's also why you don't feel the need to constantly be around people because you're comfortable in your own company. But here's the harsh reality. Society labels people who enjoy solitude as antisocial, awkward, maybe even depressed. And if you've internalized that message, you might start believing something's wrong with you. But let me tell you something. Some of the greatest minds in history, philosophers, artists, writers, inventors, they were all people who spent significant time alone. They understood that solitude isn't isolation, it's creation. It's where clarity happens, where you figure out what actually matters. So if you prefer your own company over forced social situations, that doesn't make you broken, it makes you self-sufficient. And that brings us to the fourth trait. And this one's going to sting a little because it's probably the most misunderstood. You see through people's masks way too easily. You ever meet someone and within 5 minutes, you just know they're full of it. You can sense the fakeness, the hidden agenda, the performative kindness that's just masking insecurity or manipulation. And you can't unsee it. You can't just smile and play along like everyone else does. Most people are willing to overlook red flags for the sake of keeping the peace or being part of the group, but not you. You'd rather be alone than surround yourself with people who aren't genuine. And here's the thing. This trait, this ability to read people, it's a gift and a curse. It's a gift because it protects you from toxic relationships, energy vampires, fake friends, people who would waste your time or drain your soul. But it's a curse because it means you see things other people don't. And once you see it, you can't go back. You can't pretend someone's nice when you know they're gossiping behind your back. You can't fake a friendship when you know it's one-sided. And so you end up pulling away, not because you're judgmental, but because you value authenticity above all else. And most people, they're not authentic. They're wearing masks, playing roles, trying to be liked instead of trying to be real. And you just don't have the energy for that anymore. And finally, the fifth trait, and this is the big one. You outgrew your old friendships. And most people never do. Think about it. How many people do you know who are still friends with the same group from high school or college, even though they've completely changed as a person? They're holding on to friendships out of nostalgia, out of obligation, out of fear of being alone. But you're not afraid to let go. You understand that people grow, evolve, change, and sometimes that means growing apart. And that's not a bad thing. It's actually healthy. Because here's the truth. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago. Hell, you're not even the same person you were last year. You've learned things, experienced things, healed things. And maybe the people you used to be close with, they're still stuck in the same mindset, the same habits, the same shallow conversations you've outgrown. And you tried. You really did. You tried to maintain those connections. But eventually you realized you were forcing something that no longer fit. And so you walked away. Not because of arrogance, but because of self-respect. Because you understand that your energy is precious, and you're not going to waste it on relationships that don't serve your growth. So here's what I need you to understand. If you have few or no close friends, it doesn't mean you're broken, unlikable, or doomed to be alone forever. It means you're selective, self-aware, authentic, and unwilling to settle for surface-level connections. And in a world that values quantity over quality, where everyone's performing instead of being real, you're a rare breed. You're someone who values depth over breadth, solitude over shallow company, authenticity over approval. And yeah, that path is lonelier sometimes. I'm not going to lie to you. There will be nights where you wish you had someone to call, moments where you wonder if maybe you're too picky, too guarded, too much. But then you'll remember that you'd rather be alone and at peace than surrounded by people and feeling empty. And that right there, that's strength. That's self-respect. That's knowing your worth. So, if this resonated with you, if you saw yourself in these traits, I want you to do something for me.
Stop apologizing for who you are. Stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. Stop believing that having fewer friends means something's wrong with you. Because the right people, the real ones, they're out there, and they're looking for someone exactly like you. Someone real, deep, intentional, and unapologetically selective. And when you find them, you'll realize that all those years of solitude weren't wasted. They were preparation. Preparation for the kind of connections that actually matter. This video is for general awareness and personal growth only, not professional advice. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and remember, you're not alone in feeling alone. And that's the beautiful irony of it all.